First of all, how are you keeping during this pretty unprecedented time?
Yeah, do you know what? Pretty good. It's doing my head in a bit now. I've got a little 1-year-old, or he's 16 months old now. So, because my work is pretty flexible, the wife is working flat out since he was 6 months old. So, I've been looking after him a fair portion of the week. So, it's just annoying that I can't go to soft play and the likes of Folly Farm and bits like that, which is my sort of nice time with him, to grab a coffee and interact with other people. But I've still been surfing. I've been running and doing all that sort of stuff to keep myself mentally sort of stable, if you want. Because if it wasn't for getting out in the waves and having a run, a little bit of break from the kiddie talk, then I think I go insane. But yeah, I've done enough to keep my head above water.
Nice one. So switching over to your international career, then you had 64 caps for Wales. Do you miss it then, having retired a couple of years ago now?
Do you know what? I don't. It was a funny one because I played. It was coming up 20 years. I think it was the 95-96 season was my first game for Newport, and then I retired in 2015-16 season. I think it was. And then actually my last couple of games for Narber. But it's a fact that I'd done it for so long, and the little niggles were creeping in. I kept having little calf problems at the end, and just an aging athlete, and the game was sort of not passing me by, but it was just adapting. It was evolving a little bit outside my scope. So by the time I'd finished, it was training on a Wednesday was normally the tough training day where you do your 3 sessions, a lot of contact. And it was those sessions that I was thinking, oh God, I've had enough of these now. And the games, not being able to put your socks on for 2 or 3 days. But I love the camaraderie and being with my mates and the journey that took. So being in the changing rooms and being in the environment with your friends is what drove me. And that was the hardest thing about, giving up rugby was, you were giving up, that time with your friends, and you just enjoy each other's company, and win, lose or draw, no matter what pressure you're under, the good times and bad, you're with your mates doing it.
So you had your test debut against South Africa, which did go exactly to plan, but then by the end of your international career, you'd won 2 Grand Slams. So, you ended it pretty well. What was it like winning those 2 tournaments? Yeah,
well, do you know what? It goes. I think that's still Wales's record loss. I think it's their worst actual performance. I think the record stands. It was mine and Stephen Jones's first cap that day, and Steve went on to win 100. I managed to get 64, but it was a tough start. When you come through that era, and we suffered some big losses, and I went through the Henry gate, where Graham Henry and the Shane Howarth, Brett Singleton, where they were ineligible, and Graham leaving, then Mike Ruddock and Ruddock Gate and all that sort of stuff. So went through some tough, not nice times, but those times made the good times even better, if you know what I mean. So I had a cameo in the 2005 Grand Slam, which was superb, which was unbelievable. Actually, the atmosphere it generated in the nation was incredible. And then I did the full stint when it looked like I was dead and buried after the 07 World Cup. Gatlin brought me back in, and I played every game, and it was my 50th cap, and I led the team out to win the Grand Slam against France in 08. So those times, made it all feel, all the bad times that had gone before it made the victory even sweeter. Those big victories. So it was it made it even it made it more special, if you want, because you've tasted, like some of these lads now, they've been involved with Gatlin for the last and success for the last 12, 13 years, and that's all they've known is pretty much success. They haven't really, apart from maybe something at regional level, at club level, they haven't tasted really sort of bitter moments. But I think it made it more special for me that those bitter moments were made all more worthwhile by the big wins.
So it must have been pretty special hitting your half century of caps in the win that you won the Grand Slam with against France. Can you tell me what that was like?
Yeah, and even it was an emotional day, because after I fell out with Steve Hansen early on. So back in, what would that be, 2001, maybe 2003 that was. I fell out with Steve Hansen, They picked Brent Cobain to go to the World Cup ahead of me. He just qualified, I think, the day before the World Cup, and the excuse he gave me was I was an inch. He was an inch taller than me, so it wasn't a great deal I could work on with that, because he's an inch higher. But it was. I lost the point of the question. What was the question again?
The 50th cap against France. What was it like winning the Grand Slam with that 50th?
That's right. So I didn't even think I'd even get there. When we lost to Fiji in the World Cup, and I got dropped then for the caretaker coaches, then it was Robin McBride and Nigel Davis in the autumn. I got dropped for that. Then I didn't see my way out really of getting many more caps. But then under Gatland, I got resurrected really and get into the 50th, and not just get into a 50th, get into that 50th cap with a Grand Slam before, a Grand Slam winning game. But playing the full part in a successful Six Nations, riding away with a new coach after just losing to Fiji and South Africa, and also beating England away for the first time in I think 17 years, and then right the way through playing some really good rugby as well. And I think that was probably the peak of my rugby as well. I sort of in a team that was playing very well, and it suited my style of play as well. So it was incredible. But the emotional bit was I got to lead Ray Gravel's daughters out. They were the mascots, and Ray Gravel, the legends, Clonechley man and Lion and Welsh hero, had died a year or so before. So Manon and Gwynon, I got to lead out of the stadium. These young girls, they're actually in their 20s now, which scares me. But I got to lead them out. First time I've ever led the team out, and it was a packed stadium for a Grand Slam decider, which we won. And it all teed up. It all came into place, and the rest is history, as we say. But that was probably the epitome of when I was hit my absolute peak, and the peak of the good times as well.
So if I'm right in thinking, and my research has served me correctly, I think the Wales team that won the 2008 Grand Slam, the World Cup a few months before, they went out at the group stage, right in thinking?
Yeah, we lost to Fiji, yeah. So I think Shane Williams, if you're a neutral, it was an incredible game. I was on the bench, and Shane scored one of the best tries. He scored a Fijian try against Fiji. It was an incredible bit of skill. I think Martin Williams scored a 45, 50 meter try, which was, but it was never quite connected in that World Cup under Gareth Jenkins. We were missing a vital component. We were just missing that the point for success. We couldn't quite get it all together to put a team performance in. And we lost to Fiji, come home in disgrace. Gareth Jenkins got sacked. Caretaker coaches then took over for a game against South Africa in the autumn. So Nigel Davis and Robin McBride. And then Gatland came in. Gatland came across. He had, I think it was 20 days prep before England in Twickenham. And we turned him over. In the first time in 17 years. And that started Gatland's great reign of form as a coach with us.
I bet it was quite nice to put the critics to bed with that win, because I think there's a similar thing going on at the moment with the current Wales team, because had a pretty dismal 2020, not the greatest Six Nations performance. Then the Autumn Nations Cup wasn't much better, but it seems they really are putting the critics to bed now. And being there yourself, it must be so nice getting back at people.
Yeah, do you know what? I've been there. I have been there, and it's surprising how from Gareth Jenkins to Warren Gatland, he didn't change he didn't reconstruct the wheel. It wasn't rocket science, after all the analogies in there. It was just he nailed the environment. He sort of nailed the environment. He put those little 1%ers, bringing like the likes of Sean Edwards come into defence, and he put the right people in the right places. Again, he didn't have much time to change the whole thing. And I think he picked like 13 or 14 Ospreys that first game, because we were the team that were playing well, the region that were playing well at the time. And he just nailed the detail, and that was missing. So with Pivac under the first year there, they were just missing detail with different things, and we could see that. The critics could see that, but the critics sometimes they can't see the whole picture. They think like there's a whole load wrong. They think there's so many things wrong that it's that's why you're not winning. But it might be a couple of small things in the environment, or small technical issues that they're maybe one step ahead of themselves with their progression. And we had a fair bit of luck this Six Nations so far, but that little bit of luck is what sends you on winning ways. And once you're winning and that confidence is coming out, then all of a sudden it just clicks into place and you're doing things with second nature that you'd be having to think about. If you look at the likes of the form of certain players over the years, like an Alex Cuthbert, who's a fantastic player and brilliant for Wales, brilliant for the Lions, and then hit a patch of form, of poor form, and sometimes just trying too hard. And they were great players, but you all want to play well, and you can try too hard at times, and you need things to become second nature. So you're not actually thinking about it; you're just doing it. It's muscle memory, and you're just sort of reacting. So it's the same with the team there. It's a real hard job being a coach, especially at that level. And this last game, I thought the England game, I thought Wales was superb. Ireland and Scotland, I didn't think our performance was there, but we won. It was great. But that England game really showed me that, right, hang on, we are, the transition is happening. We are progressing. And that was a really enlightened performance. It wasn't perfect, but it was a real good step in the right direction. You just need that bit of extra time sometimes, for how you want to play the game. And he's had a tough year over the last year, the Welsh management, sort of finding their feet and having to deal with the critics. But again, when you get the victories, when we've got a triple crown now, he's got silverware, it makes it even sweeter that he's had to endure all the negative stuff.
Yes, I was speaking to your former teammate last week, Michael Owen, and he was saying to me that even if Wales, last week before the England game, he was speaking, and he was saying even if Wales were to lose to England and France and finish 3 out of 5, that isn't an awful tournament. So it might have been okay, presuming that we'd beat Italy. But now having beaten England, it really puts us in a good position. And Michael said last week that he reckoned that Wales had the credentials to win the Grand Slam again this year after doing it in 2019. So do you share the same thoughts as him?
Yeah, he's a good boy, Mikey. I enjoyed playing. He was obviously a Grand Slam winning captain, and he was at Pontypridd as a youngster coming through when I was there in the late 90s. But I agree with that. When going into the game, I remember watching Scrum 5, and I think it was my old colleague Nathan Brew and then Scott Quinnell were on the panel talking about how they thought our chances fared. And Nathan was saying that he saw us at probably 4th place. He said, Italy and maybe scraping one other, and potentially, and Scott Quinnell, we're winning the Grand Slam, and he sang it out, and he sounded like a madman, Scott. He was, no, we're going to win, and he was so passionate with it, like old Ray Gravel, and so passionate, and we're going to win, and people were like mocking him, going, Christ, what's he been on? He's been on the happy tablets here, and Nathan's, his analysis was, his projection was probably more on the mark, and then Scott's now right. That's how rugby is. This tournament has been a bit of a game changer, really, isn't it? And I saw the way the form was last year and how they played in the autumn series. They were a 4th place team maybe off that form, and again, it taken a bit of luck, a couple of red cards, and a little bit of luck, but then they've had to play off that, and they've had to nail the victories, and they've come through, and it's. France is going to be a huge game. Italy's going to be a huge game because you take your eye off the prize with those, and they're the stereotypical banana skin. But France will be the toughest game. They've been the form team for the last 18 months. Under Sean Edwards, he's added that bit of detail to them that they didn't have before, and all of a sudden, the strides that they've made in performance has been huge. Just having Sean Edwards there, it's solidified that area of the game, which has allowed them to express themselves in other areas. And all of a sudden they become a team that can grind out wins in tight situations where they would have maybe thrown it away in the past and let ill discipline go. So it'll be a huge game. I think I'm commentating and from Cardiff. It'll be a massive game. But after our performance against England, I'm more confident going into this game than I was maybe before the English game. So it'll be game on.
So switching back to you then, so your post playing life. So how have you ended up in Costa del Pembrokeshire then?
Well, it's I got the shepherd's crook. You know, I've had it on the rugby field a couple of times where I've been, you know, yanked off and substituted. You know, they give you the shepherd's crook and pull you off the field. But I married a Pembrokeshire girl, so it didn't take too much twisting. I've been living in Swansea. I was living in Swansea for the last 13, 14 years after I joined the Ospreys in 07. And yeah, I met a Pembrokeshire girl through rugby circles, actually, how it came about. One of the sponsors of Wales. She works for the company, one of the companies that sponsors Wales. And yeah, we got married a few years ago, and yeah, got married in Manabia. Her parents live in Pembrokeshire, just Begelly by Folly Farm, and it was, yeah, when we had a little one, she said, I'd like to move back closer to my parents. So we moved from Swansea and moved back to you know, to live the dream out west in Pems. But I realise I'm an immigrant at the moment, and I've got to work my way into with the locals and earn my stripes, so to speak. But it's beautiful. It's it's a nice laid back way of living. I'm pretty laid back. I like, I love my surfing and my little hobbies, and it's all set up for it here. So yeah, really spectacular part of the world.
So you mentioned earlier on that you played a couple of games for Narberth, was it?
So yeah, so they did. There's a classics tournament in Bermuda, and with JPR and Alan Martin puts on. And I always fancied it. You know, I never had much chance for the last 10, 15 years to play fun rugby. It was always pressure rugby. Pressure. Whereas this tournament, you know, even though New Zealand, Canada, so you got to enjoy Bermuda and drink a few dark and stormies and rub swizzles and play against old test players and have some fun with each other as well, and a good party. So I wanted, as I just retired from the Dragons in the May, I didn't want to turn up as the most recent professional, too out of shape and in a bad way. So yeah, so I asked John Dodds, the coach at the time. I was working in the schools with the school's attainment program called Reach for the Skies in Sir Thomas Picton, as it was then. And Doddsy was the coach at Narberth and said, well, you can have a couple of games for us for fitness if you want. So yeah, so my registration is still with the Otters. And that's where it will stay, I think, because I think unless you re-register with another club, it sort of dies with that club. So yeah, I played actually last year in a fundraising game. I think it was for Motor Neurons. It was to do with Doddy Weir and a local guy called Dickie Parry that had a garage in Robertson Wathen. It was a local legend there, and they put on a charity game on Boxing Day, and I played in that. And that's the last time I laced my boots up. So it was the year last Boxing Day. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this year and maybe coming on board in some sort of ambassadorial role with Narberth and then follow them across and being involved in some way, shape or form when it all opens up.
So just to finish off, are you tempted to get back involved with rugby in Pembrokeshire possibly, or maybe some wider sport?
But I'm enjoying my weekends at the moment. I do a bit of commentary work for Radio Wales. I was Scrum 5 before it turned over to Premier Sports. Actually, I was doing some stuff for Premier Sports until COVID. So I enjoy dipping in and out. I enjoy sort of dipping my toes in and keeping in with the rugby in that aspect. But yes, I will probably get involved with Narberth. There actually, Bill Ridge, the second team manager, wants me to play a few games for the seconds. I said as long as he plays alongside me in the second row, I'll play 20 minutes. But I'm not actually that keen. I quite enjoy going out for a run. I quite enjoy swimming, cycling, surfing. I put my body through over 18 years of pro rugby, 18, 19 years plus of pro rugby, and my shoulders are thanking me for it now for the rest. So to jump back in and start taking those hits again, I watch the game and I wince now, seeing the hits that go in. I haven't got the physios backing me up like I used to, or the surgeons. So yeah, it's nice to call it a day and just watch rugby and be a spectator and an armchair critic at times.
Nice one. Sounds good. Bill Ridge used to be my youth coach.
Right.
Well, yeah. I was speaking to him the other day.
Well, he still does stuff with youth. Yeah, he still does, and he's brilliant. He's on to me. I think they have a monthly lotto as well in Narberth. And you haven't paid your subs for the lotto this month. And sorry, Bill, I'll put the sign. But he's good as gold, Bill. He was part of the clique, if you want, of the people I knew, because my wife works for Princess Gate Water, and Di Jones that had the factory before he sold out. You know, he had his circle of friends who are all ex-Narberth players, and Bill Ridge was one of those. So we did a few events, and that's what got me involved with Ironman through Princess Gate Water. I did it twice. So I did it in 16 and 17 in Tempe. I went out to France to try and do 3 in a year. So I tried to do Vichy by Clermont-Ferrand. So I went out to do Vichy, and then I got sick in the swim, and I did Wales 2 weeks after. So yeah, I've ticked the box. I've got the T-shirt, as they say. Been there, seen that, got the T-shirt. I enjoy the events. We do, like, me and a couple of my mates from Cardiff, my best man and a few other boys. We like doing the ETAP, the open stage of the Tour de France. Gives us a chance, a nice little boys trip to go away in a van and do some cycling in the Alps. And I just like an adventure. I did Kilimanjaro the other year, took a group up there, and that was brilliant. It's just something to to keep me going, something to train for, because entire rugby career, it was you were trying to train for a performance to make a regional team, make a European regional team, then also get Welsh selection. There was always a carrot to chase. And then when you finish playing rugby, that carrot goes. You haven't got anything to chase. So Ironman was my first biggest carrot to go, right, that's something to put my mind on. That's something to train for. And yeah, I did it. I did it for two and a bit Ironman. I can't say it's 3 because I pulled out halfway through. But yeah, I did 2 full Ironman, and it was great. You know, and the atmosphere there was superb. And you know, I go and support now. After my second Ironman, I running up the cobbles in Tempe. And I said, right, next year I'm going to be drinking a Peroni and, you know, sort of shaking a cowbell and cheering people on. And I found my place doing that now. But yeah, I like a challenge, but Ironman, I'll leave my place for the next up and comer.
Yeah, I think after doing 2, you probably deserve that Peroni, didn't you?
Oh, too tough, especially 18 stone. Not fun.
Nice.
It was fun, but it's just dragging yourself.
I really appreciate you taking your time today. It was lovely to speak to you.
No worries at all, but no worries at all.